Hello, this is Virtualis the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Today I'm going to go through a game I played with another member of the Chess Bootcamp Club where they wanted some feedback on their chess. This was a member who's a little bit earlier in their chess journey. Let's go take a look. So this was the game I played against Sassy Skittles, a fellow member of the Chess Bootcamp Club, and they wanted some feedback on their openings. And I noticed that they tended to play with white this fairly passive E3, which is the Vannedt-Cruyff opening. And it's not so good because one of the opening principles is potentially to try to take control of the full center. And so against this, I play E5. So the idea taking control of center. And I noticed that afterwards they tended to do this double fianchetto setup. So one of these sort of hyper-modern type openings. Now, the hyper-modern openings are actually potentially quite okay, but if you're sort of early in your chess journey, so lower rated, so Sassy Skittles is rated at 650 in the daily format. Often one of the classical openings probably is better, particularly with learning opening principles and sort of trying to understand how to play the opening and the middle game. Hypermodern openings are perfectly fine, but they do tend to be fairly complicated. So they're kind of like breaking the rules, and you can break the rules sometimes, but you kind of need to know why the rules exist. So again, try to take the full center if you can. D5. So here we go, the first bishop in that fianchetto setup. Develop the knight, obviously, attacking the E5 pawn. So that develops my knight and protects that pawn. And here we go, develop the other knight. So knight before bishops generally. Now here, I already have an opportunity, according to Stockfish, that given white's slow development, I could try to crack into the king side. So that's already very interesting. However, here, not familiar with this sort of opening setup, so just trying to play solidly. Develop the center pawns, develop knights, then try to develop bishops. So white now sort of develops their other fianchetto bishop. And I sort of asked sort of Sassy Skittles, what was their sort of reasoning behind this? And they did have a strategic idea, which is that they're trying to make non-committal, so waiting sort of moves in the opening, pointing the bishops on fianchetto positions, and then potentially after black castles, the bishops may be potentially facing against the king, and they're going to try to, in their words, throw all the pieces onto the side of the castled king. So look, there's an idea here. However, one of the challenges when you try to fianchetto both bishops is that it just takes time. Like you require quite a few moves to develop that. And in doing so, you end up sort of losing out, so giving away basically the center. And that potentially is quite problematic. So here, develop a bishop, and one of the sort of ways of sort of dealing with sort of these fianchetto bishops. Now here, I was wondering whether or not white, is white going to, which side are they going to castle? After the development of that knight, I thought they were probably going to castle king side, and so potentially what I would want to do is, see whether I can block off these fianchetto bishops. And one of the best ways of blocking off a fianchetto bishop is potentially with a pawn, but even better is if it gets blocked with in this case white, with white's own pawn, because their bishop cannot take their own pawn. So if I can get one of white's pawns here, that bishop effectively becomes a bit neutered. So here, I sort of developed my other bishop. They now decide to push that pawn, strike in the center. Now, striking in the center before castling is often a little bit problematic. And again, in this case, white wanted me to castle first. But because I controlled the full center, I have no problems with my king remaining in the center. So I get to choose potentially which side I will castle. So here I thought, look, take, and I can probably then retreat that bishop, and then there's a pawn blocking that diagonal. And so this bishop is chomping on their own pawn, and it's like it hasn't really developed. So happened, so takes, and bishop back. And as you can see, their dark square bishop is now kind of trapped on this diagonal going nowhere. At this point, they decided to short castle, and it was interesting sort of in sort of a chat with Sassy Skittles afterwards, they felt a bit uncomfortable actually castling first because part of their strategic approach was wanting me to castle first and then having an attack. But I just decided not to play ball. And in this situation, I'm quite a bit more developed. The interesting thing is I think the evaluation is actually not too different between white and black. So the hypermodern defenses are hypermodern systems are potentially quite good, but they are difficult to play. So what was my thinking here? Now that they've castled this side, which is what I thought they were probably going to do, I now bring my queen up because I want to trade off that light square bishop. Without that light square bishop here, that king side defense is a little bit problematic. And my goal, because I haven't really committed any of my pieces to one side or the other, is to bring all my pieces to now attack on their king side. I'm going to try to castle queen side so that these pawns can march forward into their position as well. They sort of bring their knight, trying to, trying to protect that square, but that knight is problematic because I can straight up attack that with a pawn. Knight jumps back. So, and it's interesting here that this was apparently a mistake, and white is about -3. Curiously, if the knight went to this square, it's actually 0, 0, 0. It's completely equal. So very subtle positional differences leading to big evaluation differences in this hypermodern setup. And this is why I think the hypermodern systems are actually quite hard to play. So here, because of the lack of development, the lack of control of the center, I'm basically quite a bit ahead now, about -3. So bishop forward, I want to trade that bishop. You can see Stockfish thinks they didn't mind. They thought just straight up pushing the H-pawn was good here. They developed the other knight, but again, very, very passive setup here. I trade that bishop. That's what I want to do. King forward. Now I decide to long castle. Again, Stockfish thinks no need for that. Straight up attack down the H-file. I thought getting the king out of the center here was potentially still safe in case I made a mistake. They're trying to bring sort of their bishop back into the game, but think about sort of the potential wasted moves here by white. And now finally, H-pawn forward. Stockfish definitely thought that that was potentially a good move. Stockfish thought that was a mistake, but basically it's relatively easy play here. It's basically chomping down, getting rid of these defending pawns on that side, and white has a problem. So they take, so that was a hanging pawn, but I thought that was fine. I was perfectly willing to basically gambit that pawn because now I've opened up the H-file. And basically, this is now potentially quite powerful for me. There we go. I want to get rid of that knight. So knight forward. What are they going to do? That's fine. Develop my bishop. Take out that knight. Now, they have got another knight defending that square again. They decide to sort of bring the king into the center. And, by the time you're doing that in the middle game, it's risky business. So Stockfish called this an inaccuracy. It's very risky. And in fact, we're about -14. So the king moving to the center because of that damaged defense, it's looking very, very bad for white. So here I saw, there's a potential attack down that dark square diagonal with, with their bishop having moved off that diagonal. Bringing the rook over, it's fine, but this is all defended. I'm not worried about that. So I take that pawn, which comes with check. King now moves out of the way, but again, I now have another check, opening up the diagonal with a discovered attack on the rook. Take the rook, very, very good. Take, that's fine. Take back with rook. And here, it's really trading away pieces if I can. Very likely to be winning. So +8 material. It's really about not stuffing up. Now I do have to be a little bit careful here. Knights are tricky. With the with that king with that queen there as well. So bring the rook up. Basically effectively lopping off lopping off that rank. Also double attack on the pawn. They defend with the bishop. That's fine. Here, attacking that knight, they take. And here, I thought I had a very clever move. So here, with check. Now, Stockfish sees a potential forced mating line there, which is why that is best. But what I saw was it looks like that knight is hanging. And here I move out of the way with check, which basically forces the king either to move or they have to capture. Either way, I thought that was fine. However, I thought if the king captures that knight, that's a bit of a trap. They did take it because now we've got mate in the center of the board. Knight is defended, bishop is defended, queen is defended by the knight, everything defends itself, and now the queen blocks off all escape squares for the king. Mate in the center of the board. Good game. GG. The big takeaway from this game is that you need to learn and understand the opening principles of chess. I played another game with Sassy Skittles where they make use of some of these opening principles after we had a chat online. That video will be published in a couple of days' time, and you'll see how much improvement that actually makes to their game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.